Hello, I'm Scott Hogue. Welcome back to the 3 Steps to Wealth. And this is the 3 Steps to Wealth. And it's been a while since the last video, so I think we ought to review. There are 3 steps to wealth. The first is you get the information, the second is you study the information, and the third step is you apply the information. However, there are 3 secrets to the 3 steps to wealth. Let's cover that. First secret is you've got to get the right information. Now, all the information about bass fishing will not help you play better a game of golf. Probably not. You've got to get the right information. Then the second thing is you've got to study this information not just until you know it. You've got to study this until it changes you. And it will change you if you study the information long enough. It makes changes in you. And then the third thing is there's a certain way that you have to apply this. And there's actually a book that describes it. It actually calls it the certain way that you have to go about these things. And we'll talk about that later. But there is a certain way you have to go about this for it to be effective and efficient. And those are 2 of the things that actually are covered in that certain way. Now, why am I here? I made a New Year's resolution a while back that for this year, 2014, that I would help more people change their lives in dramatic, positive ways than in all my career put together. And that way of doing that is I'm going to start putting out free material. And I already have. I've got a podcast that's going. You can find that on the 3 Steps to Wealth website. Just spell the word 3. It's all together, 3 Steps to Wealth. There's a podcast there. It's on iTunes. You can look on iTunes for it now. It's on iTunes. Just look for 3 Steps to Wealth and you'll find me. And it's a great podcast. I'm covering the same information. It's a little bit shorter form, but the same information that I teach in the 6-month classes that I've been teaching. Well, why am I here? I'm here in my home. I'm teaching this video here in my home because I found out that I may not have all the rights to put up some of the videos, well, maybe even all the videos that I have made for organizations and groups, that I could put them up on the internet for free. Well, here I am. I'm in my home. I know I've got the rights to do this here. I'm putting this up free for you, and we're going to cover all this information. I came by it at much too high of a cost to keep it to myself. I suffered for this. My children were young. We struggled. My first wife passed away. She had a serious health problem. I won't go into all of that, but I had a lot of difficulty. If this just benefits me, then I pay too high of a price for this. But it would make my life make sense if I could teach this information. It would benefit others. And so I started that. I actually did. And I gathered all this information. We have 4 books that more millionaires and billionaires said made them millionaires and billionaires than any other books in history. And I found out which books those were, and I studied them. And then there are 4 cash-making strategies. There's 4 money-making strategies. And as far as I know, there's only 4 ways to make money. And I didn't know that in the beginning. But I found out there are 6 cash flow pathways that we can use. And there's 4 reasons that more people are not wealthy, and never will be if they can't fix these 4 reasons, than any other reasons that we run up on when we deal with people. I didn't know these things when I first started. I didn't know that there were books that you could read that they'd put money in your pocket if you could read the book, understand it, and apply it. It actually put money in your pocket. But I do now, and you will too if you'll stay with me. So I went out and started teaching this, the financial part. And it was a tremendous failure. I put ads in the paper. I put ads in the little shopper papers or the television schedule papers or all. And I put, change your life, call this number. And I would schedule 3 Steps to Wealth classes, is what I call it. And we would meet just anywhere we could meet, at a fast food restaurant, at a meeting room in a larger restaurant, just anywhere we could meet, one-on-one or in groups. And I would teach this information. And I felt like that it was like my duty, responsibility. I learned more as I taught it, even more about this, and it was a benefit. It was the same information that I used daily to make the money that I made. I knew it was good information. I knew it worked. But I was a tremendous failure. And the reason I found out later was even though they learned this information, very few people did anything about it. They didn't change their actions. We live in a cause and effect world. Everything that happens, it's happened because something caused it. If you drop a brick on your foot, you can drop a brick, that's the cause. The effect is your foot hurts. And I always say, be more careful next time. And that generally gets a laugh. But it's not funny if it's your foot. So there's a cause and effect. Everything, there's a cause for it, and there's a, if there's a car in your driveway, and it's your car, and you get up in the morning and there's a dented fender in your car, then you know there is a reason. Someone hit that. That's the reason. That's the cause. The effect is you've got a dented fender now. And you wouldn't say, oh, fenders just dip. And that just happens from time to time. No. No, that doesn't happen. You go in your refrigerator, you open it up, and there's food there. I can guarantee you somebody put that food there. It just didn't appear when you closed the door and it got dark inside that refrigerator and mysteriously all this food appears in it. There's a reason for things. There's a cause for that. The people that changed their causes got different effects. But it was a very few. One man added $27,000 to his annual income in about a week. There was two young men, and in 2 weekends they added to their income over $5,700 some odd dollars, I believe it was. 2 weekends work. They had an idea, they followed the principles, they did that, they carried it out. And one said that, I know I'll never have a problem with money again because I understand how it's made. I understand what to do. And he was practically in tears when he told his experience. But these were the rare ones. The man that made about $6,000 extra in about 9 weeks on the weekend, odds and ends things that he was doing. Not hard work, just some interesting things that he thought of, and he followed through these 3 steps. They were the rare ones. Most people, they could quote the information, they could tell you all about it. I started giving tests. I thought, no, they're not getting it. I'm teaching it, they're not getting it. That's what the problem. No, they knew it. They knew it. They could quote, they could tell you the 3 steps to wealth. They could tell you the 4 ways to make money. They could tell you where the money was made, how money's made. They could tell you all these things. Most of them could. But they weren't doing anything any different. One night I was driving to a meeting, and it dawned on me, I'm just going to teach more people more things to do so they have more to know to do that they won't do. And that's all I'm doing. I'm going to teach more people more things they won't do. That's what I'm doing tonight. And I thought, that's just pitiful. And then it dawned on me, that's the problem. That's the problem. Most people don't know how to do what they know to do. That's what the problem is. And when I realized that, the light came on. I got to think about weight loss. There's only 2 great points on weight loss. One is if you want to lose weight, here's how you do it. You eat less, and you're more active. And everything else, every other book, video, DVD, CD, audio tape, whatever, doesn't matter. You've got to eat less. Got to be a little more active. That's how you lose weight. Worst kept secret in history. My daughter knew it when she was 6 years old. But the problem about growing overweight is still growing. Why? Because most people don't know how to do what they know to do. That's where the problem is. And so I went back. After I realized that, I went back, I studied psychology. And I even studied hypnosis. And I got certificates in hypnosis. And I practiced this and that, and I tried that. And I go back more to psychology books. And then I'd say, well, this book is useless. Or this technique is wrong. And I would keep working. I would find what would work and and then finally, I got it to where I thought I had it. I really had it. And I went back and I redid the 3 steps to wealth to where that the first half of those first 6-month seminars, the first 3 months, all I covered was why we do what we do and how to change it. Why we do the things we do, why we don't do the things we don't do, and how to change it. And then the next 3 months of the last part, I would teach the financial part. I do it a little different now. I break it up about into thirds. Really, the first part is the biggest part. I teach people how to do the things they know to do, how to make changes, how to make change automatic. Now, that's the great thing. And how to reprogram yourself, how to make change automatic, and how our mind works, how to understand it. When you've got a problem, if you understand the system, you can fix it. You don't need to call someone in as an expert. People got to where they didn't call me anymore. They would report to me. Oh, I remember how that things worked. We talk about TOM, and we'll talk about that later. TOM, T-O-M, Theory of Mind. That's what that stands for. And they say, I remember TOM. I worked on that. I thought, why did I do that? And I went back and I figured it out, and I just thought I'd let you know that it worked. Well, that's great. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it. And the best thing I could do, I decided, was to make myself useless, that I wasn't necessary anymore, that these people could carry on. So the first section now, I teach why we do what we do, why we don't do what we don't do, and how to change all the things we want to change. Then the next part's the financial section. And that's the easiest section. Actually, if you bought me a good dinner at a steakhouse, maybe even a good hamburger at a hamburger joint, during that meal, I can tell you pretty much what there is to know about making money. It's the simplest part. And if you took notes pretty quickly, you could get most of that down. But it probably wouldn't do you any good if you didn't have the first part and know how to change things and change your behavior. because you have to change your behavior. If you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting. And they say that to think that you would get different results from doing the same thing over and over again, that's a form of insanity. And so we need to quit that, and we need to realize that if I want something different, you know, it's like this. You keep getting a chocolate cake, you're using a chocolate cake recipe, you keep getting a chocolate cake, complain all you want, you're still going to have a chocolate cake. If you want lemon cake, you're going to have to get a lemon cake recipe and start following those directions. So anyway, the second part is the financial part. And in the third part, I've got to where I've made a section to help people. I use what I call the GRAPES, G-R-A-P-E-S, and it stands for, you know, goals and all that, you know, and achievement and planning and execution schedule. But the GRAPES planning system, I use that to pull it all together so that now people have got a personal plan and they know how to make their own personal plan, how to adjust that plan, and how to move forward. And when I went back and I did that, it was a success. I started getting phone calls, two sisters that made a couple $1,000s in a week, and it's the easiest money they said they ever made. Now, is this a get-rich-quick scheme? No, it's not. But yet it is a way to study and understand how people have got rich. And these things are repeatable, and I'm going to talk about that maybe even in this video. But when I walk into a 3 Steps to Wealth course, when I first walk in, I've got a group of people here, and they don't know me. I've talked to them on the phone because, you know, they've answered the ad in the paper, and they want to know where we meet, what this is all about. You know, about half the people show up. That's generally what happens. You know, you in a small town, you may get 14, 20 people call, 7, 10, something like that show up. A couple of them will drop out in the meantime, maybe. And you'll do well in a small town if you've got maybe 5 to 8 that actually follow through the whole thing. But anyway, I walk into the first class and I say, okay, I told you all to bring pencil and paper. So we're going to start with our first exercise. I want you to write down 5 things, no less than 5 things that you know you can do, no doubt, that you know you can do, that will make your life in the next 24 hours measurably worse. And I get some strange looks and maybe some giggles, and we have fun with this at the meetings. And I say, really, I'm not kidding. For this exercise, please humor me and write down at least 5 things that you can do that will make your life measurably worse in the next 24 hours. And so after a little coaxing, people start doing it. People a lot of times will talk, and that's fine, you know, talk in the class and what have you. And they'll come up with different ideas, and people say, I'm going to write that down, you know. Putting your shoes on the wrong feet. Now, that would make your life worse pretty quickly. And you certainly can, if you can put your shoes on the right feet, you can put them on the wrong feet probably. You've probably got that ability. And then, of course, looking at your spouse with a look of disgust. And if you don't have a spouse, surely there's someone in your life that if you just stared at them and looked at them with disgust, that before long they'd be pretty uncomfortable around you. And then one man said walking around backwards. And then there was a woman one time that when she heard that, she said, put your clothes on inside out. And I said, you know, if you walked around backwards all day or maybe put your clothes inside out and went to work or whatever, you might be taken in for observation even. And we joke about it a lot. Some people say, well, you know, my night in a padded cell probably wouldn't be a whole lot different than the night that I have as far as enjoyment or what's going on at home normally. And so we have a lot of fun of it. But here's the point now. There are things that you can do within the next 24 hours that would make your life measurably worse. And if you're honest, you'll admit to it, and why not? This is your life and it's for your benefit. That's what I'm talking about. If you walked out a second-story building, and I'm not saying do that, by no means. I'm not giving you any advice to follow. All these ideas you have to take to a professional. I don't know your circumstances. I can't be responsible for your actions. I'm an educator. I teach people different things that other people have done, different possibilities. You have to take that to, if it's a medical situation you're wondering about, you've got to go to a competent medical professional. If you have any thoughts about harming yourself or others, by all means, friend, please, I must insist that in the strongest way as your friend, that you seek help for that, because there's help out there. And don't quit until you get it, because there is help out there. And I've seen that so many times be a benefit and turn people's around in such a great way. But I'm not telling you to go out the second-story building, but I'm saying if you walked out the second floor of a 2-story, 3-story, whatever building, would your health take a drop pretty quickly? I think that's pretty certain. You know, if you blew the rent money, would that get you worried? Would it get you evicted if you blew the rent money? I mean, there's so many different things. If we're honest with ourselves, and as I've already said, why not be? Why not be honest with yourself? Because you're the only companion you're guaranteed to have through this whole life. So be honest to yourself. You know the old saying, to thine own self be true. you know you've got the power to change your life for the worse. Well, if you look up the word change in the dictionary, you're going to find that it's just one meaning for the word change as we commonly use it, and that's when things don't stay the same. There's not one meaning for positive change and another definition for negative change. The word change is when things don't stay the same, positive or negative. It's when things don't stay the same. If you've got the power to change your life for the worse, friends, you've got the power to change your life for the better. And it's time you realized it. As a matter of fact, you're actually using it. You know, you're probably eating already. And if you quit that, your life would change for the worse. You're already doing something and eating and drinking and talking to people, communicating, however you're communicating. You're probably doing things that if you just quit them, if you're going to work in the morning, if you quit setting your alarm clock, if you just quit that thing, it would probably make your life tremendously worse financially because you'd probably lose your job if you didn't go to work. Just a simple thing as setting an alarm clock can make a tremendous difference. As you get up, that starts a chain of events, actions, and so the effect that you would get out of that would be a paycheck. If you quit that little thing of setting an alarm clock, you see how big a thing grows. You know, you sow a seed, it gets pretty big. You get some pretty big trees from some pretty small nuts. But now as we go on with this, if you've got the power to change your life for the worse, then you've got to realize you've got the power to change your life for the better. And that's where we've got to start with this. We live in a cause and effect world. You've got to do things different if you want different results. That's all there is to it. You've got the power to do that. I want you to take an index card and write on it, I now believe in the power of positive change for me. This is now. It's not before. Maybe you didn't believe that before. Maybe you didn't believe you had that power before. Maybe you tried before and failed. Friends, you can't be a failure. Failure is an event. It's not, you can have the flu, but you can't be the flu. You can have a failure, but you can't be a failure. You probably didn't even fail. You probably were going about things in a difficult, maybe even an impossible or even backwards way. And you got tired and you gave up. Well, it's time to get up and go back to work now. And so here we are. Take an index card and write down, I now believe in the power of positive change in my life for me. And I choose to use it for great good. Run it back if you have to. The video, run it back and listen to it all again. I now believe in the power of positive change in my life for me, and I choose to use it for great good. Write that down. Now, people say, well, what is this? Well, it's an affirmation. It helps you to affirm yourself, to help to understand, and it primes your mind and your actions. Now you're starting to build a habit of looking at something. Now you're starting to build a habit of different thoughts. Now you're planting a seed. And that seed is growing behind the critical wall of the critical mind in the subconscious now. If you keep planting that seed, keep putting it back there, it's going to stay, it's going to stick. And that's what we're talking about. Well, I've used up enough time today. The sun's even setting here at my home. So I'll get back with you later and do that. Think about it. You've got the power to change. It's up to you to choose it. Do things different, you'll get different results. We'll start tying a lot more of this together in the next video. We've got a long way to go, but there's a lot of advantages along the way. Come back and join me. Let's do it together. Till then, be blessed.